Listen, prayer is like creeper bud.
Creeper bud. What's creep? I don't know if I know what that is.
No,
I do, but most people probably don't.
Now, I don't smoke weed and I don't condone smoking weed and I don't encourage people to smoke weed. But many years ago when I was in college, and actually the first time I ever smoked weed, they say that when you smoke weed, you don't get high the first time you smoke it. Have you ever heard this before?
Yes.
And it's not that you don't get high. You actually do get high the first time you smoke weed, but being high is so different than anything that you're used to that you're not sure what to look for the first time you smoke weed. And so the first time I smoked weed, this is a true story. We were at a park near my house. We hopped over a fence into a ditch, one of those ditches that's next to a freeway.
Okay, you're going to tie this into prayer.
I'm tying it back into prayer. Hang in there. We jumped over a fence. We went down into a ditch and we smoked weed. And I said, this stuff's not working. This weed is not working.
Of course, yeah.
But then all of a sudden, I heard what sounded like a helicopter. Boom, 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 boom. And it was actually cars driving on the freeway, and there was trees dispersed. And so as the cars drove by, you would hear the sound of the vehicle. Boom, 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 boom. And I got scared and I said, there's a helicopter. Oh my gosh, the police are after us. You know how you get paranoid when you're high. Paranoia. So my friend Jamal and my friend Kurt, we started running because we thought that a police helicopter was after us. And then all of a sudden Jamal stops and he goes, wait a second. He goes, Scott. He said, those are cars. He said, you're high, man. Okay. Now, creeper bud is weed that you smoke, but it doesn't hit you till a little bit down the road. And so what happens is you smoke it and you're like, oh, it's not working. But then 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, however long it is, all of a sudden it kicks in. I'm telling you, oftentimes prayer is the same way. And so I tell people, if you're learning how to pray the rosary or you're learning how to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes a day on your knees and you're not getting results in day 1 or day 2, set a 21-day period and say, I'm going to be consistent for 21 days. And I'm not going to judge how the prayer is impacting me until the 21 days is over. Larry, when you started praying the rosary with us in the morning, because you and I had conversations about what your prayer life was like and your encounter, your experiences with God, you started praying the rosary and I started seeing results of prayer that you weren't recognizing yet as results of prayer, but you kept it up. You've been faithful. And now you've had a breakthrough, recognizing that signal grace. But the prayer, it was like creeper bud. In fact, you were at my house one day saying you were describing results of prayer, but not telling me that it was from prayer. Do you remember this?
I'm trying to think. What?
This was about a week in. We're about a week in, and you came over to the house and you were describing.
Oh, now I remember.
Yes.
Like the tow truck driver that I was wanting to punch in the face, and then I went out and saw he had a limp, and I thought, after I talked to Scott here, and I came in the house, said he wants $85 to not tow my car. I wanted to punch him in the face, but then Scott's like, he chilled me out, but God's spirit came upon me. I went back out there and saw he was walking like he had a really bad back. So I just turned the whole thing around and said, okay, I'll pay you your $85, dude. What's wrong with your back? And then I said, well, I'm in this prayer meeting right now. I'm going to go back in and we're going to pray for you. So I would say that was probably a result of praying the rosary. I don't think I would have done that in my past ways.
Actually, yeah. The way you said it to me later after that day was you said, oh, it's not necessarily while I'm praying, because you don't like getting up at 6 a.m. when you're tired to pray.
And I struggled mightily with prayer for a long time because I expected to feel like this ecstasy in prayer. And it
immediately.
It just never came. It's like a spiritual discipline. And then I'm learning now that the fruits of that don't always happen until sometimes later.
And you began to recognize, you said, oh, I get it. I'm spending this time in prayer, but I'm seeing the fruit during the rest of my day.
Yes, definitely. And it's that intimacy with the Holy Spirit, because I'm always telling myself, hey, I want to be more in the moment. I want to feel God's presence. I always use that word feel, and feels the wrong word. I want to discipline myself to be with God on a regular basis. And, prayer allows that. A prayer makes you more aware, and the results will happen of the things that I've always wanted. Even though I may not feel that ecstasy when I'm praying, I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. You're right. It's not fun, but the results are happening. And I'm so excited about it. And it fixed one of my problems, right? At the retreat, I made it clear to everyone that one of my problems, or my limitations, was that I just wasn't good at prayer, right? I wasn't good at prayer. And Scott's made it clear to me, that's really kind of not how you describe prayer. You got to do it, and then you'll be good at it.